So this is our backyard transformation project. We bought our 1962 Rummer knowing that we loved the architecture of the house, but also that it was a very special property located on 4/10 of an acre in a cul-de-sac, so it was very private. Part of the transformation of the property was to create a Japanese garden that was a nice tranquil space and fill it with native plants like dwarf hemlocks and rhododendrons, azaleas, and trilliums. Originally, it just had this tiny little gardening shed, but we built an outdoor living room and a water feature so that we could attract birds and wildlife. We expanded the patio space so it'd be nice and generous for entertaining and for outdoor summer parties. We were able to keep a lot of the beautiful trees like this magnolia and dogwood. The project took 2 years, but part of that was because 9 months of it were spent taking our house down to the studs and doing a remodel. And over here on the side yard, what was here originally, we pushed the fence out to the front to reclaim more of it for the back and built a gardening shed to match the house along with planter boxes for a raised vegetable garden. And then we wanted to get rid of the grass and be very environmentally conscious. And we put in a bocce ball court so we would have fun things to do. And there's our outdoor living room and the spot where it all began 2 years ago. And you'll see from the next video where the journey of the yard, what it looked like from the beginning. Coming out the back side, we have this huge backyard. It's kind of wild right now. There's a big storage shed in the back, but you can just see how big the backyard is. We have this big patio that we're going to make bigger. And it just kind of goes on and on. Just kind of show you some of the things. There's a little arbor. Then there's a whole nother side yard over here. So it's got a really big, nice yard. There's our fence that fell down, but we're going to get that fixed, of course. And here's another picture of how big the yard is. Just looking across gives you a nice idea of how big and how fun it's going to be to garden back here. So how did we start the transformation of our yard? First, we had 40 years of neglect and just overgrowth in the yard. Things were buried in there that we didn't even know what they were. So we decided that we needed some help, and we called in a little bit of heavy machinery to help us do this. After the weeds were gone, the next thing to go was the patio. The next thing to happen was the regrading of the yard. There was a lot of earth moved around during this process. And then we brought in some new healthy earth to replenish the dirt and create a nice ecosystem that we would have in the future when we started planting later on down the road. By October 2017, we were working on the drainage all around the house. We put in curtain drains so that we could make sure all the water stayed clear of the foundation. And since we were doing this major remodel, of course, we wanted to do this part of the process and do it right. Then a bit of a rest occurred while we were working on the remodel of the house. But we resumed back in June of 2018 to start the retaining walls for the bocce ball court, and we were hoping to move into our house in at the end of August of 2018, so we wanted to have this cement work all done, hopefully before we moved in. So there was a lot of rebar and support done for this retaining wall, part of the process. You can see kind of the remodeling going on as well too. And the actual pour happened on July 3rd. We are working, helping ourselves, and we wanted the wall to actually be very minimalistic and be like the architecture of the mid-century modern house that we were doing, so kind of had that Bauhaus effect, and we were really pleased. So in August of 2018, we also started work on the back patio and moving around some more earth for the future pond area. So the forms were getting put down for the patio. We were going to be moving in at the end of the month, and we really wanted to be able to walk out and have a patio and also walkways around the house. It was a really large cement pour, so it couldn't be done all on the same day, but we did luck out that the weather cooperated for the various pours, and it all actually went really smoothly. And then we did the kitchen area as well, because there's a patio outside the kitchen sliding doors that connects to the other back patio. And then the walkways around the house got all done. So by the time we moved in, we actually could maneuver everywhere around the perimeter of the house, which was really important and nice. And here you can see that original shed again and the future pond area. At this point, our neighbors were just loving us. Now we were all moved in, and it was September 2018, and our bocce ball court started taking shape. There was a lot of gravel put in, and there were planter beds on top, and so a lot of soil got put in there for future planting, and also the planting beds behind the fireplace got filled, but we were ready for a game by the end of the month. One of the finishing touches that we also did to the patio was to put small river rocks in between all the pavers for a natural look. Also in September of 2018, we did a whole new back fence along the back of the house and got a bunch of bamboo to put in so that we could have complete privacy and not see any other houses from our property. We had to dig a big barrier to contain the bamboo, and so this was done with some machinery and to make sure it never went in the other people's yards in the future. You can see the bamboo getting placed along the fence there. By October 2018, you can see the foundations were being poured for the outbuildings, both the outdoor living room and the shed. And by November of 2018, the construction on both started. We really lucked out with the weather. You can see the buildings coming to shape. My husband designed them so that they looked exactly like the house and had the same construction properties with the post and beam and the same beam spans, so that the goal was that they would always look like they had been on the property, and that they gave the property actually a sense of history and a completion, and that they wouldn't just look like add-ons. The gardening shed was actually very cool because it had a separate entrance for the tools and then a front entrance that was going to have the sliding door on it, where I guess you could call it a she shed for me. There you can see it really coming to shape. And by 2019, the buildings were completed. In February 2019, we had a bit of snow, but we had staked out the side yard to see what the future dry creek bed area might look like and used some tomato cages to even place some potential trees. So it was kind of fun to see this in the snow. March brought my husband's favorite part of the whole transformation of the yard, and that was picking out the boulders for the Japanese garden area. We picked out 30 tons of rocks to be delivered. Here you can see a lot of the beautiful rocks, and then in April, the rock work began. In this phase, the earth was getting contoured for the Japanese dry creek bed, and also placing the rocks was a really big project because they had to be dug down to make them look very natural for the stepping stones and to get buried really into the earth so they looked like they were always there. And the pond was also beginning to take shape during this part as well. Here you can see them getting the liners in place along with where to put some of the rocks. By April 2019, the shed was painted and our little mason bees got a home. And our hostas and our vine maples were starting to bud out. And we planted our garden area along the bocce ball court and patio, trying to create a pretty landscape for the bees and also to have some nice picked flowers for the summer. We got some outdoor furniture, which was nice. And the yard was really taking shape, looking like a place we could hang out. And our bamboo was really growing. July 2019, the work resumed on the Japanese garden. The dry creek was getting shaped, and we had 14 dwarf hemlocks that got planted to make it seem like it was also a place that had been there for a while, and the liner was installed for the creek bed, and the gravel got put on and tamped down so it would drain when it rained and wouldn't collect water, and it was really starting to look like this beautiful, tranquil place. And the pond was also getting finalized. The pond is nearing completion, so are the steps for our yard. There's going to be some fine tuning of the sound of the pond, but it's really nice how there's a lower portion of it and then a really nice little pool here at the top. And these steps will be filled with gravel, as will this whole top of the Japanese garden. And the garden's really coming along nice with the dry creek bed and the dwarf trees. It's going to be really pretty when it's done.
It looks pretty good.
By August 2019, we were ready for some entertaining, and the patio worked just as we had hoped. It was very generous to have multiple areas for people to sit and hang out, and the outdoor living room worked great for appetizers, and people played bocce ball, and it just really was everything we had hoped it would be. And the Japanese garden was just this beautiful, tranquil area. I think leaving a lot of the mature trees on the property also helped make the yard seem like it had been there for a while. Here's some before and after photos. Here's the patio before, and here's the patio after. Here's the backyard area before, the shed that's still there. And here it is after with the bocce ball court and the outdoor living room now blocking the shed. There's the side yard before. And here's the side yard after with the new gardening shed and the raised planter beds. And here's the before pond area and the outdoor living room. And there it is again. You can see the original shed still there in the back. And here's the kitchen window. That's when the yard had been cleared. And here's the kitchen window after with the new Japanese garden. We're really pleased with this garden transformation.